Worthy One. Today we're going to talk about a very simple secret to success, and that's how to be consistent in your habits and doing the things necessary to realize the vision inside of you. Now, before we get in depth with this, I want you to think about one statement. Your victory relies on your consistency. What's up, it's Gene, this word to be great. Do you struggle with being consistent? You start taking actions necessary to realize a goal or dream, but then you fall off and you find yourself right back where you started. And that's what we want to focus on, is how to keep that consistency. And the first thing we're going to talk about are habits, but we're going to talk about a very specific habit called Keystone habits. So what is a Keystone habit? A Keystone habit is a habit that will lead to your greatest transformation. For example, let's say you went to the doctor, right? And your doctor said to you, listen, your blood pressure is extremely high. If you keep going down this path, you're going to have a heart attack. So he tells you to go home and start thinking about some habits you can change. Now, when you get home, you start thinking about an old habit that you have. So you say to yourself, I want to start exercising, and I'm going to start with walking 5 minutes a day. Now, the 5 minutes of walking is a keystone habit, because if you do this on a consistent basis, it will help to bring down your blood pressure and help you to avoid that heart attack. So when you're trying to be consistent, the first thing I want you to focus on is what is a keystone habit that you can work on, because that keystone habit will put you on the path to start building your consistency. Now, the next thing I want you to think about with that keystone habit is what's called tiny habits. Now, BJ Forbes created what's called the Forbes behavior model. Now, in his behavior model, what he says is that simplicity is the master over motivation. Hey, take the time out to subscribe to my channel. Also, hit that bell so anytime I post a new video, you are notified. And what this model have inside of it is what's called tiny habits. Now, what are tiny habits? Well, tiny habits is when you take something like a keystone habit and you break it down so simple that you don't need any motivation to actually engage in the activity. For example, BJ Forbes said that one of the things he wanted to do is start to floss his teeth more. But the issue is that he had a hard time being motivated to do so. So instead of him getting up every day to floss all of his teeth, he decided to get up every morning and floss one tooth. Now, by doing that itself, that is a tiny habit. He doesn't need much motivation to do this, but the beauty of it is, at the end of the day, if everything else fails, he know he had the victory in flossing that one tooth. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but these tiny habits actually work. For example, when I had a client in my self-discipline coaching program, his keystone habit was he wanted to get up at 6 a.m. because he felt that if he got up early, he could work on his business and other things he needed to do throughout the day. So what I said to him is this. I said, okay, you want to get up at 6 a.m. So I want you to get up. I want you to set your alarm at 6 a.m. And when you get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, I want you to stand up out the bed for 30 seconds, lay back in the bed and go to sleep. Now, at the beginning of this, he thought it was stupid. But what happened over time was, because the habit was so simple, he didn't need any motivation. He couldn't make any excuses. So he started waking up every day at 6 a.m. for 30 seconds and going back to bed. As he became more and more consistent, he would stand up longer. And because he was able to keep this up, he was very victorious. So whatever it is you want to accomplish, I want you to think about this. Your keystone habit needs to be broken down to a tiny habit, something so simple that you can do it with ease. The third thing we're going to discuss that's going to help you to become more consistent is neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity says that our brain can change. Now, the only way this is possible, you have to challenge your brain. That could be by developing new knowledge, new skill. You have to take your brain out of its comfort zone. And when you do so, it will grow. So how does this help us to be more consistent? Well, I want you to realize this, that inside your brain, you have old habits. And the reason they're old habits is because they are on autopilot. Now, if you have a keystone habit that you want to adopt in your life, The only way you can do this is you have to override the autopilot of the old habit. And the way you do this is by using a tiny habit for 30 days or more. And the more you consistently engage in that Keystone habit, you will override the autopilot of the old habit, and that will allow you to develop the new habit in your life. Your victory relies on your consistency. The more you are consistent, engaging in a habit that's going to allow you to achieve the goal or dream that you desire, the more it's going to become a reality in your life. It's something I've been doing on a yearly basis through my program called 30 Days of Self-Discipline. I focus on 3 things that I do on a daily basis. They are Keystone habits. And because I've been doing this for so long, it allowed me to become a better reader. It allowed me to develop more skill. And it's allowed me to keep my body in shape. And if you want to have that transformation in your life, I want to encourage you to get my premium ebook, Word to Be Great. This program is built inside of the ebook itself. And not only that, you will also learn knowledge and skills you can apply to your life that's going to help you to develop those Keystone habits so you can move towards the life that you desire. So click the link below and get my premium ebook today. You have the power inside of you to realize your goals and dreams. So always remember, your victory relies on your consistency because you are worthy to be great. If you like this video, I want to ask you to like and share this video. Also, join my Word to Be Great newsletter. This newsletter is designed to help you build your self-worth, your self-discipline, your self-confidence so you can achieve your dream. So click the link below and join my newsletter today.